Chris with HobbyKing.com, and welcome to the Fabrikator tips and tricks, operation guides, as well as some troubleshooting. So in this series of videos, what we're going to go through is basically what I just said right in there. Basically, you've got the printer all built up. Now what do? What software do you use? What do we recommend? How do we get it to print? What's CAD? What's CAM? What's a slicer? And we're going to go through this. First thing that we're going to address on the printer is the software update. Now, since these were put on a boat and in crates and shipped out to all our warehouses, we've sent a number of these printers out to beta testers, and we've gotten a lot of feedback, and we've actually improved some of the tuning on this printer itself. And so we want everyone to have the latest and greatest software. So if you go to the Files tab on the printers, we've got an updated sketch for the Arduino that needs to go ahead and be flashed to these. Of course, the software that's on there works, but the new one is even better. And since this is a Marlin-based control system, as Marlin is updated and new and improvements on there, it's definitely something that you're going to be doing over the years with this printer, is updating the firmware on it and as it gets better. So we want to address how to do that on this, this particular printer, especially for those that aren't familiar with Arduino. Now, this is an extremely easy setup. You don't have to do any configurations. It's actually only 3 clicks of a button to do the software update. But before you attempt doing any printing and learning different settings and stuff like that, do this software update, because it will change how you do your settings in a little bit later on, depending on your print qualities. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. This first episode of the tips and tricks is going to be software update to your new 3D printer. So in the shipping, after you built the 3D printer, you had a USB cable. Now what's nice about this printer is that you can actually print from the SD card, or you can actually control the printer via like repeater host via the USB cable. I always recommend printing from the SD card. Separate it from the computer. It's on the G code, so if your computer crashed or you had it go into hibernation or something like that, it's not going to affect your print. It's just much better to have that, and you can have this printer away, in your garage, or it's not required to be right there next to your desk, next to your computer. So I like printing with the SD card. But as far as software updates, it's got to be flashed directly from USB. So go ahead and grab this cable, and what we need to do is plug this USB cable into the printer. Now, some of you might not realize that there is actually a USB port on the side of this printer if you're new to the printing, and if you're not familiar with like the ramps boards and stuff. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. Let me go ahead and pull this around. This is the front panel off of the control board. So this is what's called a RAMPS 1.4 board. It's an Arduino Mega Shield. So we have the Arduino Mega right here, 2560, and this RAMPS board is a shield that plugs into it. Now, if you're not familiar with Arduino, Arduino is the little microcontroller right in here. It's kind of like a little embedded computer, 8-bit processor, and you can buy shields which allow you to do different things like breakout boards, I/O, different sensors and stuff like that. And so this RAMPS board is kind of like a CNC control. It has separate drivers on it, has drivers for your heat bed and a couple different functions. So it plugs right into there. And so you've got to think of it as the processor, and then you got the control board. So the RAMPS board is compatible with a lot of different firmware out there. It's shipped with what's called Marlin. The Marlin software is compatible with basically a whole host of slicer engines or CAM software, because it uses standardized G code. And we'll talk about that in a second. But let's just get right into the USB. Right onto the side right here, there is a USB port right on the back side of this panel. So if I take this printer and rotate it for you, right here on the right side, there's got a notch. There's a cutout right here where my finger is, and that's where that USB goes. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of lean this up, and that will allow me to plug the USB cable right into the side of the Mega and set it on down. And that's all you got to do right there. Now, for those that aren't familiar with Arduino, have never messed with it, you don't need to understand anything about it. Like I said, it's just 3 clicks of a button to do the software update, but you do need to download that software. So go ahead and Google in Arduino, download the latest. Right now it's at about 1.6xxx, somewhere in there. And just as long as you got 1.6 or newer on the Arduino, you're going to be all set for that. Second thing you need to do is download the sketch from the new products page. Just jump in to the printer, go underneath the Files tab, and underneath there's a sketch that says updated firmware. Go ahead and download that, and what that is an Arduino sketch, or basically the code. And let me show you how to go ahead and install that. Get my printer or my computer. Now, of course, I'm at an awkward angle, so I'm going to look goofy doing it, but at least you guys will be able to see it. So I went ahead and installed Arduino, but we don't actually need to open up Arduino. Once it's installed, go ahead and let it install the drivers, and everything's good there. You can close it out. I've just got it on my desktop here so you can see it as a reference. Once you download that file from the Files tab for the printer, it's going to actually be this file right over here, and it's basically it's 1.2 on the firmware itself. So go ahead and take your USB cable, plug it in, and if you installed Arduino correctly, the drivers will already be there. It's going to find it, it's going to go ahead and install it, and you're not going to see anything here, but it's going to recognize it as a COM port. So all you need to do is go ahead and open up the file that you downloaded from the Files tab, and it's going to have a bunch of different files in there. The only one that you need to worry about and look for is the one that has the little blue with the Omega signal in there, which is the Arduino one, and what that is our sketch folder. Once you click on it, it will automatically open up Arduino for you, so you don't need to worry about messing with the GUI or the IDE on that one. So just go ahead and double click that. You can see it's already launching Arduino. And as soon as it pulls up fairly quickly. It's a small program. I'm going to go ahead and maximize this so that you guys can see it. Now this is what, if we move over to our config H, this is where we set all the parameters such as how many steps per millimeter it is, temperature, PID loops, and all these settings. I don't want you to touch or change any of these tunings, even if you know what you're doing or what the config H is. We've got this tuned, it's running absolutely perfect. Just run with what we got right here, and later on after you've been successful with printing, if you want to go in here and tweak some things, you can do it. But for the new users, just open this up. Don't worry about anything here. We're going to just do 3 clicks, get this updated, and move forward. So first thing we need to do is go ahead and identify the COM port. So we're going to go up here to Tools, click the tools from the top bar, slide on down, and it's going to say Port. It should automatically be checked, the COM port that it found the 3D printer on there. And you're going to know that because it's going to note Arduino Mega in that. And so just go ahead and click on that. It's already the correct one. And the other thing we need to select is the proper board. It should also auto-detect the board as well, but let's just double check to make sure that it is there. So another click there. We're going to go right on down to board, slide on over, and make sure it has Arduino Mega with the little dot next to it, meaning that one is already selected and correct. If both of those are correct, all we're going to do is upload the sketch. All these params are already in that file, so you don't do anything. Now the first one is to compile it, the little green check mark. We don't need to verify compiling because it's already compiled, everything's working perfect. The next one over on the second line down is just the little arrow, and that is basically Flash. What it's going to do is compile the sketch, create the ones and zeros, and send the hex file right on over to our Arduino. So that's the one we're going to click on. Now this process takes about 30 seconds for the compiling and sending on over. What we're looking for when it finishes this process, and you're going to have a status bar right over here, is that it's going to say done, complete, verified. So we've got the green bar coming on over for the compiling. We'll just give it a second here. And you can see right over here, it tells you what you're doing. Now it's uploading, now that it's done compiling. And now it says done uploading. That's it. We're done. You've just updated your firmware. It is that easy. So just download the Arduino, download the files from the Files tab, which is your sketch. You're going to go ahead and drop into the sketch like I showed you. Just select the Arduino file, which is the little blue with the Omega signal in it. Double click it. It'll automatically load Arduino, so you don't even need to load the sketch. It'll automatically link them together. Just go in there, verify that the correct COM port is selected with the Mega next to it, and then verify that the correct board is selected, the Mega 2560. If those two are there, all you got to do is click the second button on over, which is the little sideways arrow, and it's going to compile it, upload it, verify it's done, and that's it. It's all upgraded, and you are set with the latest firmware on this. And always check for the latest firmware. We're going to have the latest firmware underneath the Files tab. As the printer and users use it, as well as Marlin gets updated with new advanced features, there's always going to be new, great open source available software from a number of different sources, and we're going to try and compile and get you guys the best software always, and it's going to be available under the Files tab of the printer itself. So always check back. There's definitely going to be some new and exciting things coming from us as well within that department. So we'll definitely keep you guys apprised on that. So always, first step for tips and tricks is make sure your firmware is loaded to the newest, latest, and greatest. Now, like I mentioned, I like printing from the SD card. So now that we're done with the firmware, that's the only reason you need to have a USB cable. But if you also like controlling the printer from the computer and sending the files over via USB, you can do that as well. So you can just leave that plugged in. For this set of series, what I'm going to do is basically the easiest possible solution that I found for 3D printing as far as software and being able to do this. And for me, that's being cable free. And we're going to use the SD card. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and unplug this. Just take this one out from the board, and we're going to set this aside. And that's it for the first tips and tricks. So now you've got your printer all updated. In the next one, what we're going to talk about is software that's compatible with the ramps board. G-code a little bit, where the software that we recommend, and then I'm going to walk through that software. Basically, we're going to take a print file, and we're going to put it through the whole process between finding the print we want, putting it into the software, and getting it to your printer on the SD card and making it print. So stay tuned for the next one, and we'll see you guys next time. As always, subscribe to our YouTube channel.